here for day 2, week 8. Final 3 games of the split. It's going to be, for each of the teams, obviously. We're not only playing 3 games today. It's going to be intense. It's going to be amazing, Ender. I'm pretty flipping hyped right now, I'm going to be honest.
I mean, you sound really hyped,
I'm on it. I've had a Red Bull. I've prepared myself for the day. We'll see if SK and Splyce are just as well prepared as I am.
Yeah, sellout, by the way. SK, of course, finally off of that losing streak. So they got 2 wins very recently, picking that up over Team Vitality most recently. And it's been really nice to see Selfmade feel so much more confident in the jungle on picks like the Evelynn, like the Xerxe. He's really stepped back into that spring split form.
He had such a performance yesterday against Vitality. Basically won the game for his team right at the end by blocking Jacktroll, who was trying to engage on the Rakan. We'll see where they go today. At the moment, SK on the blue side have banned out Azir, thank goodness, and Qiyana, and Aatrox and Yuumi have been removed by Splyce.
Yeah, specifically going to be looking at the Akali there that does get banned away from Humanoid. The Akali plus Qiyana was a combo they really wanted to go for yesterday and used to great effect. The Azir also the second most played champion for Humanoid so far this split, so we're finally going to see his champion pool tested a little bit more in this match today.
That we are, with the Ezreal being taken away from Crownshot. Immediately the Corki is locked in. Now that doesn't have to be mid, we have seen it flexed into the AD carry role.
But I mean, it's gotta be mid lane for Jenax here. Looked so good on that champion in yesterday's game. Now, with the Xayah Rakan up and available now for Kobbe and Norskeren, you almost have to believe they want to go for that. Electing instead though, as we wait to actually see the draft on your screen here, they're picking up more teamfight champions with the Gragas in the jungle.
Yeah, I'll just run through the draft picks so far for you guys as we wait for it to get onto the screen. SK have picked Corki, Xayah, Gragas, picked so far by Splyce. We're waiting for SK's second round of picks in the first ban phase. I'll try and keep you as updated as possible as our behind-the-scenes staffs, I'm sure, are working away like furious little beavers to fix the champ select screen for you. Tahm Kench now locked in for SK alongside that Corki.
Yeah, so with the Tahm Kench and a Corki already setting up to have a lot of side lane pressure, especially in the mid game when the Tahm Kench can rotate around and helps back up a strong marksman split pusher. They also pair up an Ashe alongside that Tahm Kench in the bottom lane. So having a utility AD carry down there can be quite strong, especially when trying to lock down a champion like Rakan that can be so highly mobile against you.
Yep, getting the Tahm Kench Ashe, as you say, very safe into Xayah Rakan, but Xayah Rakan, one of the strongest 2v2 dueling bottom lanes in the league. Splyce now have that alongside Gragas as their assumed jungler as we get into the second ban phase. They're looking to see what they want to remove from the pool right now.
Yeah, so I'm thinking Selfmade wants to get himself on something. I'd love to see the Xerxe personally, but any sort of strong level 2 jungler, whether that could be Jarvan or Lee Sin, you can get in the face of that Gragas in the early game. It typically needs to wait till level 3 before he really does come online, and using champions along those lines, Selfmade could try to get the game going well early for SK.
It definitely could. We are now very thankful, of course, to our backroom staff to get the champion select on our screens. Kennen removed, Aurelia taken away here by SK, Vladimir taken away by Splyce, so Sacre won't get his hands on that today. That top lane pool is getting smaller and smaller by the moment, Ender.
It definitely is, and that brings my eyes to the Gangplank pick, especially for Vizicsacsi. We've seen it as a relatively safe, blind pickable option, but also when you have a Xayah Rakan on your team, that already indicates to me that they're probably going to be looking to play through that bottom lane, and having the global of a Gangplank ult is going to be very beneficial for that.
Yeah, things that we usually see when you want to play through bot. The global pressure from top lane, Gangplank, Shen, those are your 2 big options. Sometimes even things like Twisted Fate in the mid lane to get down towards that bottom side of the map. Splyce immediately locking the Gangplank. Great prediction there, Ender. And we'll see where SK decide to go to try and counter some of this probable bot lane dive.
Yeah, and this Gangplank has been one of Vizicsacsi's top performers over the last few weeks here. Looked very strong on this champion, being set up to play a weak side top lane champion to really focus down on that bottom half. So again, I think for Selfmade in particular, a Jarvan, a Xerxe, stronger early game junglers would be my go-to pick for that. Instead, it is going to be the Sejuani. So now SK Gaming have a lot of this long range, hard engaged tools that could force cleanses or QSSs from Splyce.
We'll see how well they use those in the game. Crownshot, of course, Selfmade made his name on the Sejuani when he first came to the LEC stage all the way back at the start of the year. See how effective he is on it today. Renekton will be the final lock-in here for SK, putting some pressure on that top lane pick. You said Vizicsacsi will be playing on the weak side of the map. Well, Renekton is someone who can exploit that.
Yeah, and you can definitely see Selfmade making his way top lane early on to try and get an influence in this lane. I really like what SK have done so far, because usually when you have this team that likes to play the side lanes, play out the rest of the map, usually what this team will try to do is then use that pressure to collapse 5 people very quickly into mid lane and force a fight. And because you have both the Ashe arrow as well as the Sejuani ultimate, it gives you multiple tools to try and hard force that fight from long range. You can really make the most of having these strong side laners collapsing in towards mid.
We'll see if they do that, because that's something that will be very interesting to pick up on. Sylas is the final lock-in here for Splyce. Probably going to go towards the mid lane in the hands of Humanoid. Into Corki, can have a good matchup with the passive, with some of that magic shielding that you get, but can also struggle if the Corki gets too many Klepto stacks off.
Right, I mean, we saw this matchup in yesterday's games here, where early level, Sylas can clear away the minion wave with this passive very, very easily, and also after the change to make his shield on his E just a magic damage shield, it's still very effective against Corki, who, you know, 80% of those auto attack damage is converted in towards magic damage, so that's just about the same E ability for Humanoid on this patch.
So we have actually just passed the 20-second mark on the pick ban, and Jenax is taking Renekton into the mid lane. Corki is going top. Either that or Sacre rotates to mid and Jenax takes the Renekton, but Jenax will be playing Renekton this game. And we'll be seeing Sacre playing Corki. It's an interesting one, especially since Jenax had such a strong performance on the Corki yesterday versus Vitality. But here SK is saying, okay, new guy on the stage for us. Let's give him the ability to carry this game.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how that works. Of course, if it is going to be a Corki in the top lane, we have seen, you know, Corki top, Zero top sprinkled throughout the world in a couple of different games here. And against a Gangplank, having that ranged auto attack is going to be very effective at just canceling your barrels.
So much on the line for these two teams. Splyce in the battle for second place. SK fighting for their playoff lives. On to Summoner's Rift for the first game of the day. Only 3 games left for all of the teams in the league, and every single one counts. Early on, of course, our eyes have to go towards the junglers. Xerxe, probably seen by a lot of people as challenging to be the best jungler in the league right now. Selfmade has had his ups and downs, had his troughs and his peaks. And yesterday was definitely one of those peaks for him.
Definitely has been. Now, eyes, of course, going to be on junglers here in the early game. Now, SK already grouping up 5 members. Looks like they were expecting some sort of funny business coming through from the side of Splyce, stacking 5 members in the bush. The good old in solo queue whenever versus blitzcrank strategy here. Try and see if anything's coming their way.
It always feels when you see something like that someone's been scrimming against someone and has had it happen to them just one too many times. Like, okay, we're never going to let this happen to us again. We'll always play this sort of defensive style, but you always have to have a look at where these early wards have gone from the teams. Now, Splyce have managed to get a ward on the blue buff of SK, whereas SK haven't got any of those deep wards into the Splyce jungle.
Yeah, basically the idea here from Splyce is to see where is Selfmade starting. If it's not on the blue buff, it's almost certainly going to be down on this red buff side of the map, which means that Selfmade is going to be finishing his first clear on the top side, over around that blue buff, where Vizicsacsi could be potentially vulnerable. Now, because there was a leash donated over from Crownshot and Dreams, it allows Kobbe and Norskeren to walk all the way forward inside of this bush in the lane and try to zone off the minions. Now, Ashe can very easily clear away that first wave, because usually we just see Ashe being the one on the offensive in the lane, using the volley to push forward and poke. But Crownshot is going to have to be a little bit careful, because Xerxe is very likely going to pick up early Predator boots, and that would put Crownshot in a vulnerable position if he's pushing down bot.
It's what we often see from Gragas is you go red into Krugs, sometimes take the raid speaks, go back, get your Predators, and then look for that first gank at level 3. Xerxe, of course, has that option to him, could just look for a clear as well, get himself up towards that level 6 as fast as possible. But here's that rotation you talked about. SK will spot out Selfmade, or yep, there we are. They will spot out Selfmade, so they know exactly where he is. Chachi had been chunked out in the top lane and now knows he needs to play just that little bit safer to avoid that oncoming gank.
It's funny, too, because that ward wouldn't have spotted out Selfmade if he'd gone for a full clear, including his Krugs in his path, but instead wanting to be up top lane around the same time that these top laners are going to be hitting level 3. Interesting to see him opting into this path, because usually we see the Krugs be so vital in terms of your early game clear, because Xerxe hits level 3 off of just 3 camps. camps and now can go down and clear out his bottom side of the map. That means his Krugs are going to be respawning faster as well, which gives significantly more experience on that second clear that Selfmade just won't be able to access.
And one of the reasons we bring so much attention to the junglers is not only because jungle is such a vital role in the early game, but also because Selfmade for SK has been one of the reasons this team has been revitalized over the last few weeks. Helped them break their 8-game losing spree, and then yesterday on the Rek'Sai had an incredible performance versus Vitality.
Yeah, the interesting thing is it was on the Evelynn and then the Rek'Sai too, like pretty self-made picks if ever there were there, trying to really have a high impact in these games. The Sejuani not quite as much, but paired alongside this Renekton in the mid lane, we can already see how it affects Jenax versus Humanoid. You're expecting Humanoid to have push in a lane up against the Corki, but because SK saw that Sylas come through and said, we can just put Renekton in the mid lane, having that melee 2v2 with the Sejuani means that he's going to have priority.
First gank of the game here, and Selfmade looks up towards the top side. Do you want to bring attention to the fact that Xerxe has not backed yet? He didn't go for the early back for the Predator boot, so he's doing a full clear, now looking to perhaps invade these Krugs.
I mean, he absolutely can go for these Krugs. Now, he doesn't know that Selfmade is still on the top side of the map, but because of the vision that he saw, and you know, you can count the CS that Selfmade had when he walked into his blue buff area with just 12 minions. That means 3 camps were cleared, and he wasn't level 3. So Krugs were definitely going to be up. That's why you see him go down and put this ward here, because he knows very likely Selfmade is going to be walking to his Krugs in the near future.
Okay, so now that both the junglers have completed their first back, I want to just have a look at the bigger picture of the game. We talked a lot about how these teams want to play. SK with long-range engage after having some side lane push and priority. Splyce with more of a threat through the bottom lane early on. But in terms of big picture, do we look at these teams and see a certain scaling advantage? Or do we say this team's on a clock, this team's on a timer? Or do they both work well as the game progresses? Yeah,
I don't think either team is necessarily on a timer. You know, you look at SK, they have strong teamfight initiation tools as well as double marksman, which is always going to be very strong. And then Splyce, they have Kobbe on a Xayah, as well as Humanoid, which, you know, once you get level 16, the ultimate, while not as low of a cooldown as it was on release, is still going to be very low. And you have a Gangplank too, so you do have a lot of tools either way. I just think it's different ideas in how these teams want to play out, because Splyce have a much more clear entrance into a team fight, I feel, using a Gangplank ultimate to start it off from long range, the Gragas, the Rakan in the bottom lane. You have very clear tools, whereas SK are going to be playing much more off of numbers advantages using globals like the package and the Tahm Kench ultimate.
See there, Norskeren was trying to act as a little bit of a nuisance for Crownshot in the bottom lane. We'll see if your predictions come to fruition later on, by the way, Ender. Crownshot has a slight CS advantage here with the teleport. Cleanse on Kobbe because of that long-range engage we talked about means that he's not going to be able to get back to the lane too quickly, and expect Crownshot and Dreams to continue to push this pressure up. Level 6 is the point that Kobbe and Norskeren will be waiting for, because until then, you really can't threaten Ashe Tahm Kench too much.
Yep, the cleanse is going to be a big feels bad man for Kobbe, though, as the wave gets pushed in and is denied slightly underneath that tower. Now, one of the other things we do have to look at as both top laners hit level 6, you know, both teleports were used, so usually you would say TP advantage doesn't mean anything, but the Gangplank ultimate can still affect the rest of the map. Well, at 8 minutes in the game, the package is going to spawn, so Sacre does have the ability to try and counteract that global move here from Chachi.
Definitely has that ability. I was just paying attention to Dreams in the bottom lane. He switched to teleport off his unsealed spellbook as well, so he's actually back in that lane very quickly, which means Crownshot doesn't have to give up too much pressure. But Xerxe's on the bottom side of the map, maybe looking for a gank. Dreams and Crownshot will put a control ward in the Ocean Dragon pit, and now we'll be aware of the general locale of Xerxe.
Yeah, we can see a difference based on that first clear. Xerxe hitting level 6 faster than Selfmade. It'll be slightly delayed. Xerxe also got that extra Scuttle Crab, so that'll definitely be in his favor, but Selfmade doesn't have any camps up to clear right now and is still stuck on level 5, which is going to mean any sort of play around the bottom lane, while he can back up his lane and push out, it's not going to be very likely he can find that kill.
He's coming down towards the bottom side now, maybe trying to leech just that level 6 of XP. Crownshot and Dream still 5. Selfmade still at 5 as well. The engage coming in. Norskeren and Kobbe looking forward, and they've baited him quite well. Ignite down on Crownshot. Selfmade here in time. Norskeren tries to flash away, but already first blood. Selfmade takes it, hits 6, hits his mark, and 2 are down in the bot lane.
Beautiful play there from Selfmade, knowing apparently that Kobbe and Norskeren were playing aggressively, were stepping forward for these types of trades. Ticks over to 6 in the middle of the fight for the kill as well, but now Humanoid wants to go on Jenax.
Jenax going to pop the Dominus, trying to get away from Xerxe and Humanoid. Xerxe has the flash, body slam, doesn't use the flash. Here comes the Abyssal Voyage. Jenax can turn this one around. Cask used to knock back SK, but SK still fighting back against Splyce right now.
Yeah, now that might still be a very effective play there from Splyce, because SK, it looked like we're trying to start up the Ocean Drake. Now, because of the time they spent in mid lane, he's gonna go for play.
Not too effective when you get stunned up. He's still got flash, he's gonna try and get away, but Selfmade there for the chase. Jenax flashes in, 3 on the board for SK. A 2,500 gold lead, and SK are coming out fighting.
This is what we have needed to see from Selfmade all split, popping off in the early game. Now, 3 games in a row, he is stepping up for SK, already on the board with 3.
So strong here from SK early on. You can see, we heard in EU Rising, a lot of them thought they were dead and buried. They thought they were out of the playoff race, but this sort of performance shows they have got up off the mat and they are still fighting.
So again, this play is very difficult to pull off with the Sejuani at level 5, but as soon as Norskeren goes in, and then Kobbe not able to react in time with a flash away from Selfmade jumping forward, it is an easy kill, especially when you tick over to level 6 and can knock that down. Then they continue the play in the mid lane. Humanoid doesn't have a jungler backing him up when he's trying to push out this lane, whereas SK, they had the read. Both Selfmade and Dreams were there to make something happen.
Actually, I've been thinking a lot as well about this Renekton switch to mid lane, and I think part of the reason I like it so much is it puts a melee mid laner into the Sylas. With the Sejuani, the ability to proc that stun so quickly actually makes it very easy to kill Humanoid in that lane.
Yeah, and I mean, it also just guarantees that SK have 2 winning lanes. So yes, a lot of kill threat in the mid lane, but also Jenax is just going to win out solo in that mid side. Now, we did bring up Sacre's package a little bit earlier. He has now gone back to base and picked that one up, so potentially looking for him to make some sort of roam play towards this mid lane, because Humanoid does not have his flash, and especially if Selfmade's ult can come back up before the package times out, that's a really big window for them to make a move.
See if SK see that window as well. Norskeren and Kobbe trading down here in the bottom lane, but Dreams just uses the Devour to keep his AD carry safe and secure in his belly.
Now, it does look like Sacre had used the package probably during one of those replays, so nothing doing there, probably just to try and push out that top lane. But I do really like how SK are setting up vision around this mid lane especially. Control wards on both sides of this area. Humanoid can never even step up into the minion wave because the CC is so reliable from Jenax. You just dash forward and stun that guy out. All of a sudden, there's a Sejuani on top of you, and you're dead.
You can see Selfmade's actually using that priority to play down towards the bottom side. Xerxe's down here though. Dreams and Crownshot trying to survive. The arrow's been used. Selfmade there in time, and Xerxe caught up, stunned up, locked down. Selfmade on his second, but Norskeren and Kobbe will be able to answer with one. Selfmade has to dodge away, but Jenax on his way down. Norskeren and Kobbe may stay around for a little bit too long. They decide against it. They back away, and it's a 1-for-1 trade in the bot lane.
Importantly there for Splyce, Kobbe was able to pull back the feathers and get the kill on towards Crownshot. So the damage from range was simply not there from SK to continue the fight and continue the chase down on towards Kobbe. That's a very important move from them, trying to get gold now onto their primary carry in this game.
And it's the second time we've seen SK start up the Ocean Dragon, look to make that sort of earlier game Drake work out for them, and then have to react to something that Splyce have done. First time was a lot better for SK here. Honors were even in the end.
So we'll see it one more time. Xerxe is the guy that starts off this play. Norskeren using the quickness to land this very nice charm that, of course, gets buffered out through the Devour, but Xerxe decides he still wants to go in, committing himself to the play that does kill him, but he gets off the cask at the last possible second. The chain CC was not enough to take him out, and that was the most crucial ability there for Splyce to turn it around.
This is cool from Splyce. They decide, they say, we're not going to win bot, we're losing priority, so we'll move up towards the top side of the map. We can use 4 players to secure the Rift Herald, and because they did it on a reset, SK do not have the time to react quickly enough for Splyce here. Good macro play all round, and Splyce will be able to get the first major objective of the game.
Yeah, I really like this move coming through from them to pick that up. SK not even in a position to trade for the Drake, because they were sort of running 5 people towards the top side of the map to try and fight it, because they do feel quite strong at this moment. But it's one of those situations where you ask yourself, if you know Splyce is starting up this Rift Herald, do you waste the time to try and contest? All of a sudden, all this time has sort of flown out the window. You have not put it into any good use, so it ends up being dead seconds, dead minutes here on the side of SK, and slows them down just a bit.
Time is money in League of Legends, and the money stacking up for SK. They're about 1,500 gold ahead. You do have an Essence Reaver completed on Crownshot. Looks like Black Cleaver on its way for Jenax with that Phage in his inventory. Yet to see Sacre finish the Trinity Force, but you have to feel whoever finishes Trinity Force in that top lane first will have a major advantage. At the moment, honors are pretty even. Sacre is running Kleptomancy, so he is actually even entirely on gold because of the assist that Vizicsacsi picked up.
Xayah also going to make some there on his passive. So right now, SK just trying to get control over mid. You can see Xerxe pathing down towards this bottom side of the map. Both top laners do have TP, but Splyce favor their chances on the bottom side. There's a lot of vision, though, that is going to be spotting him out on this movement down towards bot side. So Sacre intelligently backs away from the tower, and while the rest of his team can push up top and mid.
I want to just pick your brain about my understanding of this play, right? Because Splyce were the first to rotate up towards the top side and take the Rift Herald, then keeping the enemy AD carry top side by keeping your AD carry and support up there, it feels like this play down towards the bottom side is just very, very well executed. You know you have the Rift Herald, so you can look for the plates pretty quick.
The problem is there's two people rather, coming down for SK.
Oh, Selfmade misses though, whiffs it wide, Vizicsacsi stunned up, he will die. SK able to find a kill even with that missed ult.
Yeah, because I really liked the play at the start. I agree with you, Medic, that putting the Herald down to the bottom lane was correct, but you never will have control over mid lane, especially when your jungler is focusing bot side, when Selfmade is always going to be mid. So they just needed to put down the Herald, get the plates, and then back away, but because they stuck around for a little bit longer, not only do they lose a member, but now Selfmade can start up this Drake.
Xerxe is just waiting around the corner here. Sacre backing down towards the bottom side, realizes that Xerxe's there. The dragon will fall, and SK finally get their first Drake of the game. 14 minutes will tick over, so we'll see those plates fall off the towers. Going to have another look at that bot lane play.
Yeah, again, all the vision denial through this river. Splyce didn't see it coming, but they should have expected it still. Selfmade, we don't talk about them as Sejuani ultimates. We have way too many of those here in the LEC, but it's enough to get the kill, and that's what really matters.
My solo queue teammates flame me when I miss them like that.
At least he hasn't built a Mejai's yet.
Only one extra plate worth of gold here for SK. They must have taken one and missed out on the gold, weren't in the effective range for it. So not a monumental advantage, but SK still ticking over the lead in this early game. About 2,000 gold ahead across the board. A Mountain Drake, the next point of focus for me. As always, you have to look to see which of those dragons are coming up. And SK just seem content at the moment, sitting on their heels, and I'm sure Splyce will be happy with that state of affairs.
Yeah, I mean, we take stock of, you know, are any spells down? Well, there's a flash on Selfmade, but that seems like it's just about it. There's no objectives really to play over with the Herald already being down 4 minutes on that next Drake, so seems like it's going to be a little bit slow for the time being. Now, I feel like all the onus is on SK to make a play because they're always controlling mid lane, but Splyce just go top.
Gosh, there and going in with quickness. Can Barrage use Dreams is knocked back. He sacrificed himself for his AD carry, goes golden for a moment, but eventually he'll fall. Kobbe secures it, and now 3 men strong. Splyce can look to push in this top lane, try and take that tower.
Yeah, even with a lot of vision there, Xerxe goes in!
The flash bodies down, Crownshot flashes away, chase down, pops the stopwatch, and goes down afterwards. Those stopwatches just aren't doing anything for SK right now, just delaying their demise.
Yeah, now SK must make a play here in the mid lane as they slowly lose control of this game. Xayah coming over to make sure he can clear away the minion waves as well. And you can see even Norskeren and Xerxe thinking about getting a potential collapse on towards that mid lane. A very nice move there from Xerxe to make that play top lane to get Splyce back in the game.
And it's one of the reasons we praise Xerxe so often when we praise Splyce so often. They were 2K in the hole right there, and now they basically evened out the gold score when it was SK who were getting the deep vision. It was SK who were on the front foot. Splyce find that single avenue, that sliver of a window, and are able to strike back.
Yeah, and they're also holding on to the majority of their summoner spells too. It was only Xerxe who lost his flash. While we were wondering where's the next play going to be, now it seems very clear that Splyce can continue to attack this duo lane. You can see again the global effect of that Gangplank ultimate from Xayah helping out as well, but the initiation from Norskeren truly was able to pick them up that kill. Xerxe didn't even have to use the Predator boots. That seems so unfair here. Crownshot thought he was out for sure, but definitely wasn't able to do it.
Just a sorry sight to see both those stopwatches used for no gain whatsoever. And now Splyce, 3 men strong, making forays into the enemy jungle. A bit of guerrilla warfare here from them as they try and control every bush they can. SK need to find an answer for this aggression from Splyce. They're losing towers, they're losing gold, they're losing kills, and maybe starting to lose out of their hopes for playoffs.
Yeah, so what we miss a lot when we jump into these replays is where these teams decide to go off resets and who actually gets back onto the map first. Now, it seems pretty clear Splyce were the first ones back on towards the map, so that's why we actually saw them group up and send so many people down towards that bottom lane. It gets them the tower, while SK were also, you know, respawning in the case of their bottom lane and just not able to respond with a tower of their own.
SK now, as we approach mid-game, you have to look for that side lane pressure that we talked about in picks and bans. You have to look to see, is Jenax strong enough in a 1v1? Is Sacre strong enough in a 1v1 to actually get the pressure? And then SK can look for that big long-range engage in the mid lane, bringing their side laners in. Because right now, I don't actually see anyone on SK that I think could take a pure 1v1 trade.
Yeah, I think Jenax would be probably their best bet at the moment, but even he itemized for the Merc treads here, so not going to be super effective when he's locked up in the 1v1 up against Vizicsacsi. Still should be able to step up and clear away those waves as a level 12 Renekton at this point in the game, but not exactly the matchup he wants to be in. That's why we see them actually move the Corki up into this top lane, and then Splyce, they're just calling it. They're like, okay, Humanoid, get on up here too. We'll just keep playing this ring around the rosy.
Splyce are very happy for this game just to continue to delay their teamfight tools. Impeccable. Norskeren has been on point so far this game. Predator used here by Xerxe, perhaps trying to catch out Selfmade, but they won't be able to do it just quite yet. And both teams just posturing, you know, with Baron up in 1.5 minutes and Dragon up in 30 seconds. Both of them will want to secure that next objective, but it's always a game of vision control. It's always a game of who can push out mid and then who can lay claim to that darkness in the jungle.
Which for the first 15 minutes was all SK, now it's Splyce.
Nice Prism is stolen away, there's a quickest in as well. Dreams caught up, will pop the 6th skin, but here comes the teleport, and Splyce take one. Are they going to be able to do much more? Jenax in the back line with the dominance. Kobbe goes into the Blade Caller for a second. Featherstorm, that's the name of the ultimate, and he will survive, and SK unable to find a pick on the back of that fight.
Yeah, SK really trying to force that too, calling in the TP from Jenax, but we see Kobbe has cleanse, so even if he had been able to jump on towards the Xayah, it would not have worked. Now Selfmade really trying to get on Norskeren.
Norskeren's got very deep here, he's done. That was very greedy from Norskeren, could have danced out at any moment. Now Kobbe stepping forward, Crownshot's just around the corner, Jenax almost falls. But Crownshot could have done a lot of damage there to Kobbe, didn't have the ult. As you say, Kobbe had flash cleanse still. You can see, you know, if you step a little bit too far, this Sejuani is going to catch you out and lock you down.
Selfmade still having a good game. 100% kill participation on this champion. We can see Kobbe not doing too shabbily either on this Xayah in this game. You know, he's just able to step so far forward because he went so defensive in his summoner spells. A lot of the time these days we see TP on the Xayah, but in a game like this, Cleanse going to be very effective. Splyce start this one up, just jumping on over the wall. They get the initial pick on towards Dreams. This is what we're going to see a lot. Whenever Dreams tries to pick up one of his allies and get them out to safety, Gragas ult comes in, and he, and maybe even his ally, if he can't spit them out in time, will instantly die. What's up, Medic? What were you trying to say there?
Oh, did I accidentally talk through my microphone?
You accidentally talked through your microphone.
I was talking to our observers and saying that would have looked really cool with Fog of War.
That would have looked really cool with Fog of War. Unfortunately, not going to be getting that this time around here. Kobbe just need one more auto attack on Jenax to get him.
That would have been really cool with Fog of War.
Would have been so cool with Fog of War.
I'm pretty sure SK would have hoped that the Fog of War wasn't on for them, as they were the ones that were getting caught out. 6 kills to 4, 20 minutes in. That's actually about a 700 gold lead here for Splyce, as they have fought their way back from an early game deficit, and now SK still trying to find that avenue of approach in this matchup. The wave clear from Splyce is pretty strong, and so it's quite hard for SK to approach these towers, but they have a wave crashing in bot, and because of that, Jenax and Selfmade are going to come across here and just try and push Norskeren away from his jungle.
Yeah, so remember when you were talking in draft about how SK actually wanted to play out this game, it was very much about using their strong solo lanes to create pressure in the sides of the map. So they need Sacre in the matchup against Vizicsacsi, you need Jenax versus Humanoid. They still should win out in those 1v1s, push those waves, and then look for the collapse. That's when SK can go on the offensive, but if Splyce are able to catch them out in a team fight, when they're just grouped up with 3 members around the mid lane, that's where we're going to see Splyce win time and time and time again.
Splyce have been so good in teamfights. One of their main ways of playing League of Legends is to wait out the game and then look for those big 5v5 skirmishes. Have Kobbe on the backline, have a frontline threat. Humanoid here will spot out Jenax. Jenax kind of trying to bait just a little bit there. He was hoping that Humanoid would have absconded up, ducked into him, be like, oh, I can take a quick trade here, get a little bit of a health advantage. His Selfmade is just waiting in the darkness around the corner in that Fog of War. And now he decides he wants to back away because Splyce are coming down from mid. Yeah,
the rest of Splyce were moving down. I actually want to highlight Sacre in this position because what he's doing is fairly simple but very important as well, because what we're seeing from him, while Selfmade is playing very bot-centric in this game, you know, now that the map has been very split up, what he does is he pushes out 2 waves and then backs away completely. Now Kobbe in trouble.
Pops the Featherstorm. Selfmade still has the chase here. They know that Kobbe has Splash. The root will come out. Chachi around the corner. Here's the Abyssal Voyage. SK Could have gone harder for that, but decided against.
That was just so nicely played there from Kobbe. You know, Selfmade knows that Kobbe has the cleanse, so isn't willing to fire out that ultimate. It's one of the reasons why going for this double long-range engage can be so strong against the Xayah, because you bait one spell, you hit him with the other, but if a cleanse available, you can't do that.
Humanoid may have delved a little bit too deep here. Dreams is on the chase. Teleport coming in as they try and catch Humanoid out. No flash. Easy enough stuff there for SK. The rotation down, but they give up mid prior.
Yeah, Splyce should be able to push in towards this mid lane turret. Maybe knock that down if they have enough time. Instead, going to try and back away here. Now, what we actually saw there was the exact inverse of what Sacre was doing. Whereas Sacre, when he was playing weak side, he pushes like 1 or 2 waves, doesn't go past the halfway point, and backs away because he's at risk of being ganked. We saw Humanoid, without any pressure around him, pushing down in that bottom side. SK have control over mid, so they can easily make that rotation down and punish. That's something that is very pivotal, especially in a game like this.
It definitely is, and I think what we'll see as the game develops is one of those mistakes, one of those weak side mistakes actually impacting this game quite a lot and maybe even winning the game for one of the teams.
And it's actually a mistake we see fairly often from Splyce, you know, not just Humanoid, but whether it's Vizicsacsi sometimes getting caught in the side lane. It's one of the reasons why the game can slow down from them in the mid game, even when they don't have a lead, because they are getting picked off in transition or over pushing in a side lane without proper control. It is in team fights where they feel at home, but not when they're splitting up around the map.
And now, as we see 2 to 3 items across the board, all these teams have hit those power spikes we talked about in pick and ban. Trinity Force on the Ashe alongside the Essence Reaver. Sacre looking down towards his bottom lane as he's got Infinity Edge. And here's Selfmade round the corner. Charge is going to flash away. The lockup will come down and Sacre just puts a little bit more damage in with the Missile Barrage.
Yeah, the rest of Splyce was on the way, so SK will back away, but now mid lane with 3 members, SK can go ahead and push for this tower because they made a play on the bottom side and drew so many Splyce members over towards that fight. SK able to pick up a quick objective.
Always just about, it's the ebb and flow of pressure, and it's always so important to keep your eyes on the other side of the map. As a play-by-play caster, I like to look where the action is, but when you're thinking of the macro of League of Legends, always look where the fight isn't happening to see what's being impacted on the other side of the map.
I just feel like SK are playing around their side lanes quite a bit better than SK now, and Humanoid picking up the Ashe arrow signals to me that they'd love to try and look for a fight. Remember, Chachi still has that ultimate available while he's clearing away minion waves in that bottom lane, and if they use an Ashe ult to set up for Norskeren, there's a lot of tools here they can try to work with.
But SK have a lot of tools to answer them.
True.
If a fight does happen, all you need is a good stun. Lockdown on Humanoid, lockdown on Chachi. The problem is you do have a lot of cleanse tools. Kobbe with the cleanse itself, there's the arrow Dreams, just going to gobble up Crownshot, spit him out, and that's the ultimate down. Humanoid can't steal that Ashe arrow for quite a while now.
Yeah, seems like the engage not quite on the same page there from Splyce. If you want to make that play happen, you probably charge up the quickness so you can be able to flash and dash forward after that brief delay. Now, itemization-wise, SK feel really good about themselves right now. Jenax just finished off the Black Cleaver alongside Spear of Shojin. They jump on Zora and Norskeren.
I actually really like this play. Get rid of the engage tool, get him low. Ammo doesn't hit. Jenax was coming down from the top side. But even if SK don't get the kill on Norskeren there, getting him low actually makes it so hard for the Rakan to be that primary engage, to be that guy jumping onto the back line.
Yeah, SK also playing off the timing of package there. Sacre had just gone back into base, Jenax had pushed top lane, so both soul laners trying to collapse on towards that middle lane. That's when they look for the engage. They weren't quite able to find it this time around, but it's something we're going to see them do more and more and more, especially because, as we talk about itemization, Sacre has now finished off his Infinity Edge next to that Trinity Force.
It's so powerful in terms of a 2-item power point. And coming back to that side lane threat, we've talked about it so often. We set the expectation, and SK will have set that expectation for themselves. Push in the side lanes, then look towards that mid lane play. They tried to do it there, weren't quite successful, but keep your eyes for how Jenax and Sacre are moving in to join the rest of their team.
And on the other side of things, Splyce, you might wonder, why doesn't Xerxe try to force that fight in the top lane? They could pick off Chachi, or rather Jenax, who's pushing very aggressively, but always going to be the threat of the Abyssal Voids to respond there in kind. Now arrow goes on!
Hits onto Kobbe, he has to use the cleanse, jump onto the backline hit by Selfmade, and Humanoid's not here for the fight yet. Jenax down to about half HP, the Cannon Barrage doing a lot of work. Splyce looking for the re-engage, they step forward, SK step back. It's a bit of a dance in the river here as neither team wants to tango quite yet. Humanoid gets the arrow, steals it away, the Devour used, and Crownshot jumps back. Humanoid jumps in, he's so low. Jenax stuns him up, and he can't quite fall. And now Norskeren and Kobbe are going to step forward on the front line. Selfmade down. SK one man down. Can't fight any longer. The Abyssal Volley used there by Dreams just to get back with the rest of his team, and Splyce come out on top.
Humanoid playing to his absolute limits right there, living with just a sliver of HP, but he dashed forward to pick up the arrow from Crownshot to turn that into a winning fight after Splyce had used all of their primary engage. Now the teleport will come through from him. They have started up the Baron. They have the Mound Drake. It's going down quickly.
Here we go. Less than half HP on that Baron. Norskeren trying to act as the bouncer. Taking Sacre, Crownshot, and Jenax on the backline. Taking down one. Norskaren's fallen. Kobbe pops the Featherstorm, jumps back into the pit. The Baron's down to 100 and is 1-for-1 trade so far. Baron goes down. Secured by Xerxe, and now Splyce are looking for the fight. Humanoid down towards the bottom side. Getting taken out by Sacre. You have to think one more auto's enough. SK, will they go forward? They can step onto this fight if they wanted. Instead, Splyce will back away with the Baron.
Through the entire fight, Kobbe had held on to his Featherstorm, so in the heat of the moment when Jenax jumps forward to try and take him down, he still has the defenses. It is him that gets caught at the start of the fight, but he used his cleanse to try and disengage around, to try and kite back away from Selfmade, who was taken down low. But then keep your eyes on Humanoid, who's going to dash forward to get in range to pick up that arrow, instantly cast it on towards the Ashe. He knows he's not going to get that kill because the Devour will come through, but it will put SK in a position where they can then find the re-engage using the Rakan to jump forward.
Just not quite enough damage coming out from Crownshot and Jenax in these fights. Sacre trying to do what he can as well. Let's have another look at this bit.
Yeah, and then in this fight here, Kobbe, again, with the Featherstorm, so when Jenax flashes forward to try and jump on him, he kills Norskeren, but can't finish it off on Kobbe, who flashes behind the wall, also rooting a flashless Jenax, who then has no real good options. He tries to run into the pit to fight him down, but ultimately will just be a shutdown going into the hands of Vizicsacsi.
And Humanoid acting as that front line, keeping Sacre from getting those missiles into the pit, from getting that AoE damage away. Now we see Kobbe sitting on Infinity Edge, Essence Reaver, Rapid Fire Cannon. The only guy that's been with Splyce since they started off in the EU LCS, now looking to take Splyce to that second spot, to the bye, straight into Athens. What a performance he's had this split, and what a performance Splyce have had overall.
Kobbe just looking so strong right now. SK must find some way to focus him down, to catch him out in these fights. And you look at that last fight, it started off perfectly. Crownshot did land that arrow. And for, you know, a minute left, there isn't going to be a cleanse on towards Kobbe, but the second that comes back, it feels so difficult for SK to make a play on him because he always has the double defensive tools against the only two engage options that SK are ever going to be throwing their way.
Arrow lands, but Norskeren tanks it up. Xayah has a flank position here, but Splyce are just looking for these towers. Humanoid, even without a Baron buff, can just take this tower by himself, who will be joined by Xayah, just to give him a little bit of a helping hand. And now with big waves coming in, SK look to defend their base. Splyce so close to laying claim on that second place spot. SK almost out of playoffs. A win here would be incredible for them, but Splyce are not going to give it up easily. The inhibitor tower, their target, the kind of barrage, Crownshot knocked back. Here comes Xerxe with the Predators not used yet. The Glacial Prism's stolen away by Selfmade, but look at the damage! SK, can you find the engage? Do you have the tools? No arrow, no Glacial Prism, no way into the fight, and Splyce can just walk away.
SK are able to get Splyce low, but not able to step forward and get that fight started. That was such a classic Splyce setup in how they siege when they have the Baron. They often forget one side lane, group up in two lanes, go for a 3-2 split to try and push both those waves in. Then they collapse on the Giga Wave, where there's all those minions on towards the tower, then using the zoning tools, the Gangplank ultimate, the Gragas cask as well, to knock down the tower. So ultimately it is a successful move for them. The Baron will time out, but now that inhibitor has been exposed.
Yeah, broken open the base of SK makes it so much easier to look towards taking down that inhibitor, even if you win a good team fight, to look towards ending the game. Xayah sitting at 3 items, level 16 Gangplank in a very powerful position. And you can see on the left side of your screen the current standings. SK out of the playoff spots, but a single win could turn that story right around. After they thought they were entirely out, they could find a way back in. Splyce fighting with Fnatic for that second place. It's a very difficult road for them, but they play Fnatic next week, and you have to think that's going to be the deciding game in that battle for Athens.
Yeah, Splyce just have to make sure they win out up until that game and then take down Fnatic. But right now, eyes set on the SK Nexus. Importantly, Flash is going to be coming up on Jenax very, very soon. Until he has that team fighting as Renekton, going to be very, very difficult. But for the Splyce bottom lane as well, those flashes going to be coming up very, very soon. So we're poised for this next fight around the Baron buff, where everyone's going to have all their summoner spells and outplays will be ready for the taking.
There's a short time window here where Xayah is in the bottom lane, and you can see SK say, okay, we'll go. Glacial Prism lock up onto Norskeren. He gets away, though. You can just dance out of that. It's too easy when you have a Xayah, but can't you just battle dance your way to safety? SK thought they could catch Kobbe, but Norskeren was there in his way. Yeah,
can you imagine that call too? When your AD carry has cleanse and an invulnerability ultimate, you're like, no, it's no problem. I'm going to jump forward. I'm going to tank it. Lasts through 2 of those hard CCs. Look at that Merc Tread purchase from Norskeren. A lot of times we'll see Rakans either take cleanse or pick up a QSS against these types of champions, but he knows with just the Merc Treads, it's going to be enough to keep him alive.
And now, because of that, Splyce just go, okay, well, we have the priority. We'll get the Ocean Dragon. The first one of the game for them. Matches out with SK. Splyce a 3,500 gold lead. And Baron on the cards in 45 seconds time. SK trying to posture around it, trying to gesture towards it, but now Humanoid have caught out Crownshot. Xayah there as well, the flash immediately burnt. Crownshot couldn't stay there for a second longer.
It's a crucial spell that was just lost though. The flash on Crownshot with just 30 seconds onto that Baron buff spawning. We were talking about how everyone was going to have those up. Now Norskeren is going to have easy access on towards the back line. SK are not going to be willing to commit to a fight around their jungle. It will be on this Baron in 20 seconds.
The only saving grace for SK is you do still have the Tahm Kench, you have that Devour. If Crownshot's caught out, Dreams can gobble him up, but Splyce want to up the tempo. They want to keep the pace of this game rolling as they start to gesture towards the Baron. SK realize they have to answer in some way. Only one ward now controlled, caught out. Total darkness for SK as they step forward. Splyce could have started it. Who knows? You never know. They have. There is the Baron down to 11,000 HP. The arrow comes out, misses by a mile. Kobbe just dodged away from it, and now that's one tool down. Glacial Prism is available. Jenax trying to be on the backside of the pit, trying to get all the way around here on Splyce, and actually has a great flank. And now SK are looking forward. The stun lock. Look, he gets on Jenax. He gets onto Kobbe, but the Featherstorm used down towards the bottom side of the fight. Norskeren's low. Sacre doing what he can. Crownshot's down. Humanoid tanking up so much damage. He goes golden, but he will fall as well. And now it's a 2-for-2 trade. Splyce backing away towards the top side. SK fighting for their lives.
Still 3 members alive on either side for SK. Sacre stands, so the damage, the backline threat will still be there. Splyce will be forced out of the river, and the Baron does not go down to either side. Get one more chance to look at this. Again, you called it the beautiful blank here from Jenax to just waste all of Kobbe's time. He flashes forward to get the stun. Kobbe will have to cleanse and ult through that. But then on the other side of the fight is where all the action happens, because Norskeren and Humanoid really tried to dive in. They were able to kill the flashless Crownshot, but Sacre stands up. He still has the red buff on him, so ultimately the fight cannot continue there for Splyce.
And you can see the damage there from Sacre. Even if you catch out Crownshot, you take out the AD carry threat, there's another threat waiting in the wings, trying to take you out in these fights. Xayah, huge on the Gangplank. Kobbe, still huge on the Xayah, even though he was the one that was locked down from the very start of the fight. 35 minutes in, 3,000 gold between these two teams, and both teams have shown us their team fight prowess, and I can't wait for this next battle around the Baron.
This next fight going to be so clutch here. Now there's going to be 2 minutes on the flash from Kobbe. This is the chance where he only has one defensive tool, Selfmade and Crownshot. If they can throw out their skills properly, they could knock him down. They could give Jenax the ability to jump on towards him. Land those CCs. First arrow is not going to connect though.
Quickness has been used by Norskeren. That's a huge CC tool. Selfmade gets the stun, locks up Humanoid, but look at Kobbe. He's just free to rain hell upon SK, and now Selfmade has to back away. Oh, he flashes away from the battle, almost hit. There's the arrow. Only onto Dreams. He cleanses it away with the unsealed spellbook, but now the reset happens from Splyce. They know all of those tools are down for SK, and they can look hungrily towards that objective.
Yeah, both Jenax and Sacre are resetting right now. They do have the teleports to get into this Baron pit. They are going to start coming in now, though. On the side, they won't have the flank, but the Baron's going down so fast.
It's already almost down. Norskeren acts as the bouncer, and the Baron will go to Splyce. Now, what?
It's a flank TP.
Splyce can get out of there. Sacre with the flank TP. He's got the perfect position. Kobbe into the Featherstorm. Humanoid down towards the bottom side of the fight. And Sacre trying to do what he can, but Kobbe takes out one. The second shot to follow is Norskeren will go down as well. And now Splyce have to get out of here, have to get the hell out of Dodge, because they're being chased by an abyssal voyage, and the only voyage Chachi will be taking now is one straight back to the fountain. 3 times for Splyce, they get the Baron, but SK are not done yet.
SK routes Splyce out of the river, and now they have a minion wave up in the top lane. 36 minutes on the clock. The death timers are long. They're going to be trying to pushing. They're going to be waiting for the minions to come and reinforce them.
The wave quite a way away in that top lane. 36 minutes on the clock, as you say, but Humanoid has a Baron buff pushing towards this inhibitor tower, and I think SK have just decided to reset. They don't think they can get to that inhibitor in time, and they know Humanoid was knocking on their base.
I actually can't believe it. They're resetting all 4 members, not just a Sacre or a Crownshot. They're sending every single member back to base with death timers coming up, potential teleports on the other side, not willing to make it happen. Check out this Alienware replay because it is SK that start off this fight. Notice the TP from Sacre coming in with the package. Doesn't get a lot done, but he baits the ulti out of Kobbe. Then, with Crownshot alive, dishing out so much damage, and Humanoid zoned on that bottom side of the team fight, SK are just able to funnel down 5 members straight toward the rest of Splyce.
That flank TP could have saved SK's playoff hopes. A loss here wouldn't eliminate them, but their fate would no longer be in their own hands. And I'm sure they want to be in control of their own destiny. Now Splyce stepping forward. This is an Elder Dragon. Splyce are looking to fight it. Yeah,
Kobbe has 6 items now. QSS in the bank as well. He is the primary carry for Splyce. He's going to be the one running into the pit. Now they just get to take it for free.
Yeah, they do. The ammo comes out. Hits Chachi. He uses the oranges, and it's K. Ammo still on the way, but Selfmade will tank it up. Jenax looking for the flank position, and now the Elder Dragon back on it. SK could try and just burn this one down. Xerxe's still there. The barrel comes out. Xerxe! Once again, he steps up. He has had an impeccable split, and now he is fighting for Splyce. Look at the damage coming out from them. The Norskeren on the back line. SK can do nothing about it. Xerxe steals it, and Splyce take the game.
Norskeren absolutely destroys SK Gaming with a 5-man quickness from over the Dragon Wall. Now Splyce, with still 1 minute on the Baron buff, are going to be pushing for the SK base.
Only Selfmade stands in their way, but in a game that has ebbed and flowed, in a game that has gone back and forth, minute to minute, second to second, it's Splyce once again. Of course it's Splyce who stand up and are counted. Xerxe with the steal, Xerxe with the secures on the Barons before, Norskeren on the backline with the engage, Kobbe with the cleanse. It's Splyce, it's always Splyce. They stake their claim on second place in the LEC.
It was a tough game here for Splyce, but at the 39-minute mark, they're able to win the crucial team fight around the Drake. In the late game, in the home here for Splyce, it was Norskeren in particular. Such a huge play on him to set up for his AD carry to absolutely tear SK apart.
Every single member of Splyce had a moment in that game where they stood up and were counted. Xerxe with the Elder Dragon steal, Norskeren with the engage at the end with the blocks, Kobbe surviving for so long in fights, Humanoid stealing away those arrows, landing the connections. Chachi's ults in every single fight were on the money. And this is why people are talking about this team, as someone will see in finals in Athens. This is why people are starting to get excited about Splyce. They are no longer the gatekeepers to the playoffs. They are now a playoff contender.
And we've been waiting for this team to show us more clutch moments because this roster doesn't seem like it's been able to step up when the going gets tough. We think back to the spring split playoffs where they lost to Fnatic. Well, it's these late game moments, these team fight scenarios when everything is being played for that Splyce, time and time again now, have proven themselves worthy.
Impeccable performance by them. SK had some shining stars in that game. They had some incredible moments, some great team fights, some great catches, but it just wasn't quite enough on the day. You feel they faced anyone but Splyce. If they hadn't, like, anyone but perhaps Splyce and G2, maybe they would have been able to take that game by the scruff of the neck, but just because of the caliber of their opponents, they weren't quite able to make it over the line.
Yeah, I think SK will be looking back on the season as one of disappointment after coming into the LEC and making playoffs in their first split. But ultimately picking up 2 wins recently and then really pushing Splyce to the limits here. They do have things to be proud of in this back half in the split.
Definitely have, not out of playoff contention yet, but we'll see how the day progresses. We're going to have another look at that final fight. You called it, Ender, Norskeren with the quickness.
Yeah, that's what I want to see here, because he starts off this fight just running towards Jenax, gets the knockup, but then he makes this decision to try and enter the pit with Xerxe. He waits for the Zhonya's to come up, then dashes on in. That's 1 charm, 2 charm, 3 charm, 5 charm with the double knockup onto the key carries of SK Gaming. Just a beautiful play there on the Rakan.
His entrance, grand entrance as well, the W was on cooldown as he went in. He knew the timing, he knew how he'd get through towards that backline, land the knockup, land the charm. Very strong stuff all around from Norskeren. We're going to have a look at Kia Player of the Game votes. You can go over to Twitter at LOL Esports is the tag you're looking for, and Xerxe, Kobbe, and Norskeren are your options. They all had great games. I don't know where I'd go.
Yeah, I mean, this is a hard vote here because Xerxe had the clutch Baron steals, really got Splyce into the early game, but then Norskeren and Kobbe in those late game team fights, absolutely menacing.
Well, to hear more on that game, we're actually going to hand it over to Laure, who is standing by with Realistik, SK's coach.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for joining me and accepting this interview. I want to talk about the E-Rising video, the interview I had with Selfmade yesterday, because it makes me really sad to see players like this, especially since they improved over the split. And I mean, when I hear players not being optimistic, I just want to know, and I want you to talk to me about working in a difficult situation and cheering the team up, even if they don't believe in themselves. How did it go?
I mean, obviously, we are a rookie roster, right? Even though we have the first split of experience. I'm a rookie coach myself, so I have a lot to learn. I am also dealing with players that have high aspirations, a high passion for the game, which means it's going to be harder to manage them in terms of egos and expectations and how they want to play the game and what kind of players they want to be. So partially the fault is obviously on me. But I trust in my players. I trust in them finding own ways on how they want to play, bring them to me, and then we can find a way where the team actually works together. And this is what we are trying to work on right now. Everyone comes in with ideas. I bring my own ideas, and then we try to implement them as a team, not just as individuals.
I agree, and I want to give you some space to cheer them up now. The team made some improvements, so talk to me about the improvement SK made over the splits.
From me personally, I feel like even despite the bad situations, players started picking up more and trying to push themselves and push those around them, which is really important to see. Obviously, it's not easy to deal with a hard situation like this. Jenax coming in was a big deal for us because he brings in a lot of passion, new motivation for the other players around him. Obviously, he wants to perform and he wants to do his best on stage. So just having him in the team helps out with the mood, and then it's much easier to actually work around with a new player as well.
Anything you would like to say to the SK fans watching you? Because SK is one of the oldest orgs in League of Legends, so of course you have many, many fans. So is there anything you want to say to them right now?
Just keep on cheering for us and for the players that you like, because they will end up being in a good spot at the end of the day. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just they all have talent. We need to find a good system around them, and then eventually they will perform to the level you all guys expect them to perform at.
And you're finding the new system already. Thank you very much, Realistik, for agreeing on this interview. We're going to take a short break, and coming back, it's going to be Schalke 04 versus Rogue. Don't go anywhere, guys.
So much on the line for these two teams. Splyce in the battle for second place. SK fighting for their playoff lives. Selfmade still at 5 as well. The engage coming in. Norskeren and Kobbe looking forward, and they've baited him quite well. Ignite down on Crownshot. Selfmade here in time. Norskeren tries to flash away, but already first blood. Selfmade takes it. Hits 6. Hits his mark, and 2 are down in the bot lane. SK could try and just burn this one down. Xerxe's still there. The barrel comes out. It's Xerxe! Once again, he steps up. He has had an impediment impeccable split, and now he is fighting for Splyce. Look at the damage coming out from them. The Norskeren on the back line. SK can do nothing about it. Xerxe steals it, and Splyce take the game. It's always Splyce. They stake their claim on second place in the LEC.